If you're still using N8N in the browser, you're doing it the slow way. Many of the workflows that you build have a desktop version and they make you 10 times faster. I'm getting so much more done, and I'm honestly surprised that N8N isn't shouting this little feature from the rooftops. I'm managing almost half my life using this little desktop hack, including my email and calendar, and it feels like a superpower. Once you see N8N through your desktop, you'll never go back to the browser except to make small tweaks. Let's cut to the chase and see how it works. In just a few minutes, you're going to have an N8N workflow that's going to allow you to come in here to Claude Desktop and talk to it about your emails and your calendar. And not only talk to Claude about your emails and calendars, but write emails, draft emails, get your calendar events, and create calendar events. It'll be like your own personal assistant that takes care of your Gmail and your calendar. Real quick, you can download the finished workflow from this project in the link in the description, and that will include the workflow and all the prompts that we've used today. Okay, we're going to start with a trigger that's kind of new. It's an MCP server trigger. And you've probably heard a lot about MCPs and how powerful they can be. And we're going to walk through exactly how you can create one on your own today. Now here we're going to want to set up some authentication, and this will protect our MCP server so that not just anybody can access it. It will limit it so that only the people that we want to access it will be able to do so. So we're going to set up authentication, and we're going to do a bearer auth authentication. Now I already have some credentials set up here, but we're going to walk through how to do that. So we're going to open up the drop-down menu here under credential for bearer auth. And we're going to just look at this one as an example. So we'll hit this edit button and you can see that this is what it's going to look like. Bearer token, and then it will have the bearer token dotted out so you can't see it. So we're going to create a new credential. What we want to do here is create something that's really secure so that it's not easily guessable. So here we're just going to come right click on a Mac and you can do suggest password when you're in your Google browser. So we'll do use strong password. And then we would copy and paste this and save it somewhere else so that we have access to it. But for this case, we're just going to do YouTube demo. That's what we're going to call it. So we'll see it. That's how it'll show up in the drop down. So now we've made our bearer token. We're going to hit save, and that has now been created. So we're using YouTube demo. We could use N8N MCP test, but we're going to switch to YouTube demo. And we'll show how to connect to this in just a minute. This works a lot like a webhook where you have a URL that you're going to access from an outside source. So these are important URLs. We're going to ultimately be using the production URL, and we will set this to active in just a minute. So now we pretty much have this set up. You can come into settings and you can change some of these things, but for today, we're just gonna leave these as they are. So all the settings are accurate now for the MCP server trigger. There's this little port that hangs off of the MCP server trigger node that we can start adding tools to. So we're gonna search for, in this case, Gmail. And we're going to add 3 different Gmail tools here to this. Gmail, so we'll add it 3 times, and Gmail. So now we're going to clean this up so we can see them all in front of us. So currently all these are set as send a message in Gmail. We're going to change that. This one we're going to change to get mini emails so that we can actually read the emails from our Gmail account. We want to make sure that we're in the right Gmail account. You can have multiple. For this case, we're going to use Automation Hackers. That's the Gmail account that we want to connect to. The tool description, you can have it set automatically, but we're going to do set manually. And this is really where the magic happens. This is how we tell our LLM, like Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, what this tool does and how we want it to interact with it. So this is a very important aspect in this whole process. So we're going to go through this very carefully. First, we're going to set we're going to set a few more settings. So it's message, the resources message. Then we're going to do get many like we set before. We can set the limit here. We'll just leave it at the default, and everything else we'll just leave at the default. But now let's go in and let's create this description. This is very important in making sure that the large language model, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini understand this tool and how to use it. So the way that I build these descriptions is just by using ChatGPT and giving it a prompt. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to copy. I made this prompt that's a helper for building these kinds of descriptions. And we're going to paste it in here. And this is basically telling ChatGPT what we want it to do. So now it says, perfect, my role is this. It's going to ask me 3 questions. It's going to ask some questions to help define these descriptions. I want to build a description for a Gmail tool that gets many of my Gmail emails from my Gmail account. I want it to be able to filter based on the context of the message I sent it when using an LLM. Now we'll hit enter and let this thing help us build it. And then we'll go through and we'll just answer these questions. So I'll do that really fast. Okay, so now I've answered these questions and we'll hit enter and it's going to help us generate that description. So here's our description. So we're just going to copy this description and paste it over here in our set, in our description right here. So now we have this set. This will tell the LLM exactly what this tool is for and how to interact with it and use it. So we're going to add a filter and we're going to do a search and we're going to just give the LLM or the model the option and flexibility to decide what to do with this. We can do it also by label and names or IDs, so we'll also give it the option for that. We could give it received after and then received before. We can do a lot of different options. We'll let the model determine. That's good enough for now. When we create a description that's this robust, it's basically going to act as instructions and a manual that the LLM can refer to understand how to fill in each of these fields based on the context that we get it in the conversation. The other thing that we want to make sure that we do is all of any description or name of the tool needs to be in natural language or in plain English so that the LLM doesn't have to guess what the tool is for. So we're going to name this Get Many Gmail Emails so that when the LLM searches and finds this tool, it can basically determine what it's for based on the name of the tool. So we've got that created now. We're going to move on to the next one. So the next one that we're going to do is, again, we need to make sure that we have it to the right account. So we change the credentials to automation hackers. So it's connected to the correct Gmail account. Then we're going to change this to set manually. Since we already went through an example, we don't need to do this again, but know that it's very important to make sure that this description is in natural language and is basically the only instructions that the LLM is going to receive from us as to the functionality of this tool. So we need to make sure that this is pretty complete so that the LLM can accurately use this tool. So I'll fill it in now. Okay, so here's our description. So this basically tells it that this is going to be used in tandem with the other tools that we are creating as a part of this MCP so that it has the full context. Now we're going to go on to message, send. In this particular tool, we're going to allow it to send emails directly. Then here in the recipient box or recipient field, we're just going to let the model define this parameter so that we're giving it the context so that it knows what to put here. We're going to put a subject, let the model decide that. We're going to change this to text. And then the message, we're also going to let the model decide. Now that we have this in natural language, we also are going to give it a name that's in natural language. So we're going to do send Gmail email so that it knows what this tool is just at first sight when it looks up the tool. And now we're done with this tool. So we have get many Gmail emails and then send Gmail email. And on this one, we're going to follow the same process. So for this case, we're going to change the resource from message to draft. And then we're going to do the operation create. And we'll follow the same process. So I'm going to fill in this description. I'm going to follow the same process I did for the get many emails over in ChatGPT with the prompt, and then I'll paste it right here. So now it's going to be very similar to the send email, except it's going to be a draft. So create a draft email in Gmail account using plain text, including recipient, subject, and body, and on, just very similar to the last one that we did. So here again, we're going to let the model determine based on the context of the conversation that we have with it. Then we're going to do email type text, and then we're going to say message. We're going to let the model determine what the message is. That's everything for the natural language in terms of description. We're going to come up here, change the name again to draft Gmail email so that the LLM can determine what this tool does just from the name. And now we're done with the Gmail portion. And to continue, we're going to now add a calendar portion. Google Calendar tool. Do a get many again so that we can retrieve all of the events that we have on our calendar. And we also need to do a set manually here. And I'm going to create this description using ChatGPT. Okay, so I finished making that description for this. And it's just a few sentences, but it gives enough context to the LLM to understand how to use this tool. So we've set event the resource to event, get many from list, and we're just going to set this to a particular calendar so we don't make the LLM guess. And then we're going to set limit, and then this is how it is out of the box. This is default. We're going to actually change this to let the model decide. So again, up here, we're going to change the name. We're going to do get mini calendar events in natural language so the LLM can understand at a high level what the tool does just based on the tool's name. Then we're going to add another Google Calendar tool. Connect it here. Same thing, Google Calendar account. We're going to set this manually, and I'm going to go create that. Now it's going to be very similar to the last one because what this tool will do is get one event. So we're going to go and create the description for that. We'll paste that description in here that gives the LLM instructions for how to use it. And then we're going to do from list the same thing. We're going to define that it's from this particular calendar so that we don't make the model guess. And then event ID, we're going to let the model determine what it is. We told it that in this description that it needs to understand what the ID is from the call that it made to get many events earlier. And now we're going to come and change the name, get one calendar event. So now we're set there. We're going to add one more tool, which is another calendar tool. And this time we have the same Google Calendar account. We're going to set manually. In this case, we're going to allow it to create an event on our calendar. So I'm going to create that description and then paste it in here. Okay, so here's our description right here. Event create calendar from list. We're going to set it manually here so it doesn't have to guess. And then we're going to let it determine the start time and the end time. And this basically finishes the tools that we need to use in this MCP for this example. So now we're going to clean this up. Now we have all of our tools ready in the MCP server. So this MCP server is complete here in N8N. We have all of the tools connected to it, and we're ready now to give Claude Desktop, ChatGPT, access to this MCP server so that the LLM can use these tools in its workflow. So in order to do that, we're going to come up here, we're going to double click on this MCP Server Trigger, and whenever you're not sure exactly how to use a particular node in N8N, you can open it, and then there's going to be this little docs link right up here. You click it, and in particular for this MCP server, we're going to scroll down until we see a little chunk of JSON right here. MCP server is this one. So we're going to copy this, and this is instructions to the LLM of where to go to access the MCP server that we have created. So now we're going to go back into Claude and essentially give it the address to our MCP server so that it can access it and use it. Okay, once in Claude, we're going to come up here and we're going to go to Claude settings. Then you're going to go to developer here at the bottom, and you're going to come to edit config. And you're going to double click on Claude desktop config.json, and you'll see something that looks like this. Now what we need to do is we need to paste that code, that JSON code that we got from N8N's documentation right here into that Claude desktop config file. Now there are a few things that we need to update here in order for it to be useful. So we have this right here, MCP URL, and we're going to go back to our workflow to find that. So come back in here, and this is where we're going to pick between our test URL and our production URL. And for our cases, we're just going to get the production URL. So click on it, it automatically copies it. We're going to go back into this config file, and then we're going to paste that link or that URL right where that placeholder was sitting. Then you'll notice that we have this header and authorization bearer. We set this up at the very beginning of the workflow creation process. So what we need to do now is go back, and you'll see that this is a placeholder or a variable auth token, and that is stored right here under the env object at auth token. So we see here is the placeholder, our MCP bearer token. Now we need to go get that, and we need to paste it in here so that we basically give Claude permission, or it's like a password that Claude uses to tell our MCP server that it's authorized to access the MCP server. So let's go back and let's get that bearer token. So now that we're back here in N8N, we need to go back to the MCP server trigger, and we need to go to our credential for bearer auth. Our bearer token here is treated like a password, so we can't actually copy and paste this value. That's why it's important for us to write down that value somewhere else so that we can copy and paste it in. So I'm going to just copy that bearer token. Now that I have that copied, I'm going to come over here and we're going to paste that in right here. There's our auth token that Claude is going to use to tell our N8N MCP server that it's authorized to use it. So now we're completely set up in Claude. So we're going to close out of this config file. We're going to go back into Claude, and now Claude needs to be restarted so that the MCP server configuration is freshly started. So let's quit Claude. Now that we have Claude open, we're going to get this error up here, MCP N8N server disconnected. For troubleshooting guidance, please visit debugging documentation. So typically, when you upload an MCP server through the config file, you're going to see that it has access here. But we're going to go over to settings, and you'll see why it's not working. So settings, developer, there's an error here that says it failed. And the reason that it failed is because we haven't put our MCP server into production. So now we're going to go back to N8N. Now that we're here, we're going to close out of this window, and we need to come up here in the top right corner and hit active. Workflow is now activated. So we're going to go back to Claude. We're going to restart Claude, and the MCP server will then be accessible through Claude. Okay, so now we're back here in Claude. We're going to ask it if we can get the latest email from Jordan McGregor. So now it's going to set these, search for Jordan McGregor, received after 11:13, before 11:14, label IDs, inbox, and limit 10. So we're going to allow once. And here's the latest email that I got from Jordan McGregor, and it's about the annual Chili Cook-Off Showdown. Hey Jordan, just a friendly reminder that the annual Chili Cook-Off Showdown is happening this Saturday from 3 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. MST. Bring your best chili, your game face, and maybe some Tums. Looking forward to seeing you there. P.S. This year's top prize is an all-expenses trip paid to a private island in the Caribbean. Second place gets a hand-knitted coaster I made during a Zoom call. I've already ordered sunscreen and a new swimsuit. You and your precious coaster are of course invited to visit, though you'll have to pay for everything yourself. On the bright side, you'll at least have a place to set your drink on the beach. So he sent this kind of deadpan humor email to us, and now we want to tell Claude to respond in kind and kind of banter back and forth. So we'll say, can you respond with the same deadpan humor and retaliate to his smack talk about the chili cook-off? Please verify with me before sending. I'll hit enter. So here's the response. Jordan, thanks for the reminder. I'll be there Saturday at 3 p.m. with my chili and a profound sense of confidence. I appreciate a heads up about the prize structure. While you're busy shopping for swimsuits and sunscreen, I've been perfecting my recipe. I'm thinking of calling it Island Dreamer. Seems fitting for the trip I'll be taking. That coaster sounds lovely, though. Very thoughtful of you to spend your Zoom time creating participation trophies. I'm sure it will look great on your coffee table while you're watching Instagram stories of me on the beach. See you Saturday. Bring antacids. You're going to need them when you taste what actual chili is supposed to be. Best. Your name. Don't worry, I'll send you a postcard from the Caribbean. You can use your coaster to set your drink on while you read it. So now we're just going to modify this a little bit and say, please sign off with my name, which is Jordan. Then you are good to send. And now right here, we're going to tell it to create a calendar event in our calendar for that chili cook-off and block it off automatically for us. Please also block my calendar off for the time that the chili cook-off is scheduled for, and please give a descriptive title and then a deadpan description as well. So now we're going to tell it that it can send the email, that it can send this response, make the change with the sign off, and then add it to our calendar. So just before we do that, to verify in our sent, we don't have any sent messages in our account. And in our Google Calendar, we don't have that event set up for Saturday. So let's come back, we'll hit enter, and we're gonna allow once. Now it's using the send Gmail email tool, and now it wants to create an event in Google Calendar. We're gonna give it permission to do that, allow once. So now we show that the email has been sent. Let's go over and verify that. Sent, fresh, and indeed there it is, it was sent. And it changed it so that it was signed off by Jordan, and it had that whole email sent exactly how we had it lined out in Claude. So it looks like we're having a little bit of trouble with the calendar. We'll go back and change it. So what I forgot to do here is we need to add additional fields. We need to add description. We're going to let the model define that. And then we're going to go back to summary, which is oddly the title of the calendar. I don't know why they didn't use title, but summary. Then we're going to save this. We'll go back to Claude. We're going to restart Claude. And now here's the beautiful part of this process. Claude saved that conversation, so we didn't lose all the context like we would in N8N if we refresh. So we just go back to that conversation that we had, and we say, can you please create the event that we talked about, and we'll hit enter, and we'll allow once. Now it has the event and the description. So now we'll go back to our calendar. So now see over here that the event has been created. We have a casual gathering where I will demonstrate culinary superiority and secure an all expenses paid Caribbean vacation. Jordan will receive a hand-knitted coaster as consolation. Bring chili, bring confidence, leave with a tan. So we had kind of this deadpan response in the description that Claude came up with for us. So this is a great tool that you can use as a little personal assistant that will write your emails and manage your calendar for you. And this is barely scratching the surface of what's possible for MCPs in N8N and leveraging the power of the and ease of building MCPs in N8N and then tying them straight to our desktop with Claude. You can download the workflow that I created by visiting the link in the description. Then you can use it as a reference when you're building your own MCP servers, and you can even connect it to your own Claude desktop. It's ready to use for you.